Do you like statistics? Do you like charts and graphs and numbers? Do you like dry scientific discussions? Well, have I got a surprise for you? I also like them. And you know whose I like the most? I like this guy from Reason TV, especially when he talks about fun stuff that are sacred cows for a number of people who have never really examined any of the evidence or statistical underlyings for these super scientific quantitative ideas that they hold, such as climate change.
Bloomberg columnist Mark Gongloff says this scary-looking chart is something that climate denialists can't ignore because it shows how much hotter the world has been getting since 1930. The chart should actually look like this.
Oh, that's different.
This terrifying graph showing record warm temperatures.
Let me see what the difference is here. Okay, so the difference here is one of them goes up to 35%, probably 40% at the absolute tippity top, which is in the 2020s. And this is supposed to be, I'm guessing, how much hotter it's getting versus this is what it's supposed to actually look like. The highest number is 16%. So less than half of their tippity top number, which also has an exponential curve very clearly. And this one, which has kind of a flat, bumps up here and then comes down, but this is a partial decade. So maybe they're not necessarily, I don't know how they're counting increases in temperature over a partial decade, if they're counting all of it together. My guess is they call this a partial decade because it doesn't have the full numbers yet, as opposed to they're adding up all of the warmth numbers. I guess they could be adding up something that is progressing in a arithmetic progression, such as, okay, the increase of CO2 parts per million in the atmosphere, which would mean that if you were in a partial decade, so I mean this is 2024, let's say, when they collected this data, so it would be about half. So if you were to expect a doubling, you'd have it about up here. So there is a drop.
Look like this. How about this terrifying graph showing record warm temperatures? It should look like this.
Oh, that's different.
These are two examples of how climate scientists manipulate data to generate scary-looking charts. Global warming is real, but using statistical tricks to frighten people into panicking about it poisons the public discourse and leads to bad policy decisions.
What? That's silly. I don't believe that.
Both of these charts are known as hockey stick graphs because they show a sharp, alarming upward turn in temperature. Here's the original hockey stick graph from 1998. It was created by climate activist Michael Mann.
The graph that we published told a pretty simple story. You didn't have to understand the complex workings of Earth's climate system, the physics and the math, to understand what this graph was telling us. That there was this
just look at the graph, man. You can see it's bad. The thing goes up.
Warming taking place today.
By hiding the complexity, Mann exploits widespread ignorance of physics and math to push his point. He refused to reveal his data and methodology.
Oh, he complained that he would not share the methodological details or raw data that would enable them to assess his work. Okay, the methodological details, that is something that is always shared in any kind of scientific paper. It's literally it's like methods, yeah, like means and methods, like it's a significant portion of any scientific paper is, yeah, you have to show us how you did this stuff with your data. Now, what's usually not included is the raw data. That's usually not included because it would just be an enormous stack of numbers. Now, if you wanted to actually check whether or not the statistics was correct, both, added up correctly, the data was analyzed correctly, and they used the right stuff, you would need access to all of the data, how they collected that data specifically in terms of, all right, like, do you have a poll? Did you put out something like that? We need access to that poll so that we make sure that you coded the data correctly.
He grafted the scary red line on the right, unrelated to the data in the rest of the chart. He used a biased statistical method to stitch together unreliable proxy data, and the graph dramatically overstated the certainty of past temperatures. Here's a more recent hockey stick chart, this one published by the US government's Global Climate Change Research Program. It measures record high temperatures in the US using ratios. The red bars show the ratio of record high to record low daily temperatures, and the blue bars
more daily
show the
highs.
ratio of record low to record high daily temperatures.
Okay.
If there were more record highs than record lows, you see a red line. If there were more record lows than record highs, you see a blue line. And the bar's height is the ratio. The only reason to present the data as a ratio is to create a scary visual in which the alarming-looking red bars get taller and taller. The chart is labeled record warm daily temperatures are occurring more often, but as a theoretical physicist Stephen Koonin explained in his 2021 book, that's not what it shows. Koonin graphed the number of record warm days in the US, and as you can see, they're not occurring more than in recent years. Only when you express the figures as a ratio does it make it look like record high temperatures are increasing.
Because they did it for each year. Oh, that's interesting.
Going on is that the number of record high temperatures is holding steady, while the number of record cold days is decreasing. And that's what's making the ratio lines go up.
That makes sense.
Koonin identified another problem with the chart. A record warm day is defined as a record up to that point in time, starting in 1895. So in the early years, there were lots of warmest and coldest days because it's easy to set records over short time spans. By 2018, a day had to be the warmest or coldest at 124 years to count, so record days occurred less frequently. Low numbers.
Ooh, that's true. Because it's not saying, yeah, because so every day, so let's put it this way. The first, in 1895, every day would have literally been either the hottest or coldest day, or both, ever had. Because it would have had to have been either the hottest or coldest, because you wouldn't, unless they were the exact same temperature, January 5th in 1895 to January 5th in 1896, unless they were exactly the same temperature, one of those is going to be the record high and one of them is going to be the record low day. So every day is going to be a record holder. And therefore, you can't, oh my God, that's incredible. That's unbelievable. So to push this forward, it's completely insane.
In the denominator will yield higher ratios, exaggerating any pattern. The decline in record cold days in the US is a worrisome trend and evidence of a warming Earth. But it's not terrifying. Koonin's chart is designed to educate people about climate rather than to incite panic. When this chart appeared in his book, Koonin's critics accused him of claiming that the Earth was warmer in the 1930s than it is today. But he never made that claim. The graph shows record high temperatures, not average temperatures, and only in the US. It was created to refute the hockey stick chart that was based on the same data. The climate scientist Zeke Housefather, who has accused Koonin of cherry-picking data, has generated yet another hockey stick chart. This one showing the percentage of the world that reached record high temperatures each decade from
the share, okay, so share of global land with hottest monthly max by decade. Again, saying hottest, it doesn't really matter. Like, why would you care if it's the hottest? Okay, but you might have just had weird low temperatures before, and now you're getting this stuff. The thing you'd actually want to be measuring is an absolute value of the temperature. What temperature did it get up to? How many kelvins? How many Celsius? Where is it? Is it going up? Is it going down? That's what you'd want to be measuring.
The 1850s onward. This chart claims to show that the percentage of places with record high temperatures grew steadily over time and then exploded in recent decades.
Okay, there's another thing with this, which is anytime you're looking at these charts and you're saying hottest, increased temperature, all these types of things, there's another aspect to it, which is the places that were measured are always going to be hotter from the 1800s to now. Because there's been an enormous amount of urbanization, the amount of hardtop, blacktop that's gone down is way higher. The amount of tree cover, all of these things increase temperature at that specific site. So if you're measuring it like JFK Airport, okay, guess what? 200 years ago, you're measuring it at basically the same spot. It's all farmland. Guess what? It's going to be way less hot. If you've ever been on a hot city street, or if you've ever been on a hot airport, it's super insanely crazy hot there just because the sun's there and you got an enormous piece of black tarmac that's absorbing all of that heat. It's getting baking hot.
Mark Gungloff, writing in Bloomberg, claimed that Housefather's chart refutes the denier bromide that the world was hotter in the 1930s. It refutes nothing. It's just another meaningless chart. The first problem is we don't have good temperature data going back to the 19th century. The rise you see partly represents improving quantity and quality of temperature measurements. With more data points, you're bound to detect more record highs. The same organization that provided Housefather's data set publishes another data set that accounts for measurement uncertainty.
Ooh, hang on. Okay, so you know what? So this is a share of global land with hottest monthly max data. Okay, so share of global land with hottest monthly max data. So again, if you're getting more stuff, if you're getting more places and points of data, therefore, but they're just now starting to do it, like I said before, the first couple years are basically all going to be record years because you have to compare it to previous ones. So you're going to be setting hottest records. That means that if we just added 300 new places, guess what? You just added 300 new hottest monthly max data points. That's just how it's going to happen. If you add more cities to this thing, bam, they're going to explode.
Bloomberg claimed that Housefather quantity and quality of temperature measurements. With more data points, you're bound to detect more record highs. The same organization that provided Housefather's data set publishes another data set that accounts for measurement uncertainty, which I used to generate this chart. It's more limited than the data set Housefather used. It also ends in September 2021. But my chart, unlike Housefather's, accounts for measurement problems and data quantity, so it's more meaningful.
Which is why you got this little dip here. Because I was going to say, like, all right, you have to be adding something cumulatively if you were to get this little bump down here. And that's what it is because they're not adding more stuff over this decade. They have not added all of the new spots that they're going to be pushing into it, and therefore you're not getting as much of this increase.
It's not a terrifying hockey stick showing an explosion of heat, but it does suggest a statistically significant trend. But I wouldn't recommend either of these charts as a measure of climate change.
Like I said,
they reflect weather, not climate. Weather is a measurement of local short-term conditions, like a record warm month in a small region. Climate is a measure of long-term global averages and is thus more meaningful. Graphing record hot temperatures is equivalent to measuring changes in life expectancy in different places by comparing the ages of the oldest people when they die. You're looking at idiosyncratic outliers rather than focusing on what matters, which is average longevity. There are responsible ways to visualize climate data. We can use the same data set used to illustrate global heat maximums to graph global heat minimums. This shows the most dramatic effect of global warming, which is the near disappearance of record cold months. Humans living in most places may not miss these cold snaps, but they are an unambiguous warning of potential future problems. Or take this estimate of annual global mean temperature anomaly since 1880 in blue, with a simple fit to the data in yellow. It's no hockey stick showing a sudden change, but it does show accelerating warming that will bring us near 2 degrees.
Okay, but basically, it's just, this is the last thing.
Centigrade by 2060 if the trend continues. There's plenty of good news too. This chart shows the number of kilowatt hours of energy needed to generate $1 of real gross domestic product in the US. It shows that it takes 60% less energy than in 1965 to produce the same amount of real wealth, and the ratio is falling steadily.
Okay. This is GDP. GDP is not necessarily the best measurement of real wealth. I will say that, and that's a legitimate concern people have with using all of these economic charts that map to the GDP. GDP is not necessarily measuring the things that you say it does.
It shows that we can continue to enrich the world with less and less environmental impact, and that we can confront climate change while maintaining economic growth. Sensible progress requires honestly evaluating climate change and devising realistic strategies to address it, not manipulating data to generate hockey sticks. The job of scientists isn't to manufacture alarm. It's to communicate the truth.
I would agree with all of that. I will say that a lot, unfortunately, of climate change science is always going to be pushing for the most extreme version of climate extremism, Because A, it sells, it gets them grants, it makes them money, and also the people that are peer reviewing and picking which articles get published, they want that side to be the one with the loudest voice. Because, I mean, they think that there is an existential threat to humanity because of climate change, and therefore, if there's something that gives data that it doesn't really look like there's going to be an enormous, crazy uptick of severe weather, which is what was published and I believe is the accepted consensus among people. Like, yeah, no, there are not more big hurricanes, there's not more big storms. All of these things that climate activists say is going to happen or has been happening has just not been happening. And therefore, any of those articles that would be going out that would refute that and say, yeah, no, actually, we are getting more stuff, they are going to get an enormous spotlight because there's a real industrial complex around promoting those ideas. And there's a lot of people that are going to just read articles. They look at the first paragraph of the abstract and they say, yeah, okay, that tells me what I need to know. I'm going to go write an article. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm not a scientific journalist. I don't know how to read any of these things. I'm not a scientist. I have no idea what they're actually saying here. I don't know if their methods were correct. I'm just writing this article. And that's how most people get their news about these things is they read articles in the New York Times written by people that didn't read the scientific article. And even if they did read it, they don't have the tools necessary to interpret it correctly. So you end up with people not knowing anything about these things that are unfortunately then going to have huge ramifications in terms of policy. Like, this is how you get net zero. You get net zero by climate scientists trying to do the best science that they can, let's say. And some people who are publishing that stuff are kind of biased in what stuff they pick. Okay, not great, but it is what it is. Then you get people that have no fucking clue what they're doing. They are cherry picking articles. They're reading the first paragraph and then they're putting out giant articles in wide-ranging publications that are pushed out to people that know even less and have less time to think about it. And those people are the politicians who are making your net zero policies that are going, okay, well, it's literally Armageddon if we don't do this. So the fact that it's going to completely annihilate our economy, just meaningless. We just have to do it. And they don't think about any of the other second order consequences of what's going to happen. And if they do, I mean, who cares? They got their bag. They're out of government. The fact that they completely destroyed the lives and livelihoods of millions of their constituents, whatever. They got theirs. They're good. They're not going to prison. They're not getting punished for this. Good luck in all your endeavors. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Farewell for now.